My coworker hoarded every single best vacation day of the year. Then she had a car accident, and her first question will shock you. What I'm about to tell you happened at a small construction company where vacation time became a weapon. Good employees were driven away, and one person's obsession with controlling time off revealed something deeply disturbing about human nature. This story changed everything I thought I knew about fairness, workplace dynamics, and the lengths some people will go to maintain power over others. My name is David, and I'm 31 years old. I work at Sterling Construction, a tight-knit family business with only 12 employees situated in the heart of suburban Tennessee, about 40 minutes outside of Nashville. We're not some massive corporation where you can disappear into the crowd or hide behind layers of bureaucracy. When one person takes time off, everyone else feels it immediately, like ripples in a small pond. Our projects depend on precise coordination between team members, and losing even one person for a day can throw off entire schedules that took weeks to plan. That's exactly why our new vacation policy seemed reasonable when management announced it during the December staff meeting. 3 weeks advance notice required, only one employee per department off at a time, in a simple first-come first-served calendar system that goes up every January 1st. The policy was designed to eliminate the chaos that had plagued our scheduling for years. I thought it was fair, clean, organized, democratic. What I didn't anticipate was meeting Victoria, and what I certainly didn't expect was how one person could weaponize a seemingly innocent policy to control everyone else's family time. Victoria Sterling had been with Sterling Construction for 16 long years, starting when the company was just a two-man operation run out of a converted garage behind the owner's house. She was the kind of employee who knew every shortcut in the business, could read blueprints like a novel she'd written herself, and had accumulated more vacation days than anyone else in the company through sheer longevity. She worked in my department alongside me and a newer employee named Rachel. Victoria was efficient, punctual, organized to an almost obsessive degree, and absolutely ruthless when it came to vacation time. When I first joined Sterling Construction 4 years ago, fresh out of college with a degree in construction management, Victoria seemed like the perfect mentor. She showed me the ropes with patience and expertise that impressed me daily, taught me techniques that saved hours on each project, and even invited me to her son's college graduation party at her beautifully maintained home. We worked well together, and I genuinely respected her experience and dedication to the company. She had this way of explaining complex construction processes that made everything click into place, and she never made me feel stupid for asking questions that probably seemed elementary to someone with her experience. David, she told me during my second week, while we were reviewing structural drawings for a residential addition that would cost the client over $200,000, this company rewards loyalty above everything else. The longer you stay, the more benefits you earn. That's how it should be in America, and that's what separates Sterling Construction from those big corporate builders who treat their employees like disposable parts. I nodded enthusiastically, thinking she was talking about salary increases, better health insurance, maybe even profit sharing or performance bonuses. I had absolutely no idea she was actually explaining her vacation domination strategy that would soon affect every aspect of my work-life balance. Our relationship started off wonderfully, almost like a father-daughter dynamic despite the fact that Victoria was only about 10 years older than me. She would arrive at exactly 7 in the morning, large coffee from the local diner in hand, ready to tackle whatever project awaited us. She had this incredible ability to spot problems before they became disasters that could cost the company thousands of dollars. "David, look at this measurement," she'd say, pointing to a blueprint with her calloused finger that bore a small scar from a circular saw accident years earlier. "The architect didn't account for the electrical conduit running through this wall. We need to adjust our framing before we start, or we'll have to tear everything down later and eat the cost of materials and labor." She was right every single time, which initially made me admire her expertise even more. Her attention to detail saved us countless hours and prevented expensive mistakes that could have cost the company thousands of dollars and damaged our reputation with clients. I genuinely looked forward to working with her each day. She had fascinating stories about the company's history, including tales of projects that went spectacularly wrong and others that exceeded everyone's expectations. She knew which suppliers offered the best deals and which ones would try to cheat you with inferior materials, and she could negotiate with subcontractors like a seasoned diplomat who'd been working construction deals for decades. "This company has been good to me," Victoria would often say, during our lunch breaks, sitting on upturned buckets in whatever house we were building, eating sandwiches she'd packed that morning. "I started here when I was 22, fresh out of community college with a construction management certificate and no real experience. Mr. Sterling took a chance on me when nobody else would hire a woman in construction. I've never forgotten that kindness, and I've spent every day since then proving he made the right decision. Her loyalty was admirable, and I respected her dedication more than I can express. She'd worked her way up from basic laborer to senior project coordinator, earning every promotion through hard work and competence rather than politics or favoritism. She'd missed family gatherings for emergency projects, worked weekends without complaint when deadlines were tight, and trained countless new employees over the years, sharing her knowledge freely and patiently. Victoria knew every aspect of the business, from pouring foundations to installing crown molding, and she could troubleshoot problems that would stump contractors with twice her experience. But there was another side to Victoria that I didn't initially recognize, a darker aspect of her personality that would eventually poison our working relationship and drive good people away from the company. She had an almost obsessive need to control every aspect of her work environment. She organized the tool shed with military precision, with every hammer and screwdriver in its designated place, labeled and cataloged. She labeled every supply box with detailed inventories that included not just what was inside, but when it was purchased, from which supplier, and at what cost. She created detailed schedules for every project that accounted for weather delays, material deliveries, and subcontractor availability, planning contingencies for problems that might not even occur. At first, I thought it was just professional thoroughness, the kind of attention to detail that separates good contractors from great ones. Later, I realized it was about power and control, about maintaining dominance over every aspect of the work environment. Victoria had strong opinions about everything and everyone in the company. She critiqued other employees' work techniques, questioned management decisions she disagreed with, and maintained detailed notes about every project mistake she'd witnessed over the years. She kept a small notebook where she recorded what she called learning opportunities, but what seemed more like a collection of other people's failures, documented for future reference. Experience teaches you to anticipate problems, she'd say when I asked about her meticulous record keeping. When you've been doing this as long as I have, you learn to spot trouble before it happens. Most people make the same mistakes over and over because they don't pay attention to patterns. Victoria also had a way of making subtle comments about other employees that gradually undermined their credibility. She'd mention someone's past mistakes during casual conversations, always framed as concern for the company's reputation, but the effect was to plant seeds of doubt about their competence. She never directly criticized anyone, but her indirect comments were often more damaging than outright complaints would have been. I hope Marcus double-checked his measurements on that bathroom renovation, she'd say, referring to a colleague in another department. He had some issues with accuracy on the Johnson project last month. I'm sure he's learned from that experience. Rachel Martinez joined our team about 8 months after I started, and her arrival marked the beginning of the vacation calendar wars that would define our workplace for the next 2 years. She was 26 years old, had a nursing degree she wasn't using, and was eager to learn the construction business despite having no previous experience in the field. She had twin toddlers named Emma and Ethan, and a husband named Mark who worked double shifts at the local factory to make ends meet while they paid off student loans from Rachel's nursing degree. Rachel desperately needed those strategic vacation days that connected to holidays to spend quality time with her family without burning through all her limited paid time off. I'm so excited about this new vacation policy, Rachel told me in late December, her eyes bright with enthusiasm as we cleaned up after finishing a kitchen renovation that had taken 3 weeks to complete. Finally, I can plan ahead and make sure I get some good long weekends with my kids. They're at such a fun age right now, constantly asking questions and discovering new things. I hate missing special moments because of scheduling conflicts. Mark's been working so much overtime that I feel like I'm raising them by myself most days. I shared her optimism completely, and I was genuinely happy to see someone so enthusiastic about both the work and the opportunity to balance it with family life. Rachel was exactly the kind of employee Sterling Construction needed. She was smart, hardworking, and brought fresh perspectives to our projects that challenged us to think differently about problems we've been solving the same way for years. She'd studied anatomy and physiology in nursing school, which gave her unique insights into workplace safety and ergonomics that the rest of us had never considered. She suggested improvements to our lifting techniques that reduced back injuries, reorganized our first aid supplies with professional efficiency, and even created a stretching routine that helped prevent muscle strain during long work days. My husband thinks I'm crazy for leaving healthcare to work construction, Rachel laughed during her first week, as we installed drywall in a master bedroom that overlooked a beautiful wooded lot. But I love building things. There's something satisfying about creating something permanent, something that will last for generations. Plus, the physical work keeps me in shape, and the problem-solving aspects remind me of nursing in a weird way. Both jobs require you to assess situations quickly and find solutions under pressure. Victoria seemed to approve of Rachel initially, or at least she maintained a professional facade that suggested approval. She complimented her attention to detail and appreciated her willingness to learn without complaining about getting dirty or doing manual labor. "You have good instincts," Victoria told her after Rachel caught a potential safety violation that could have resulted in serious injury. Most people would have missed that electrical hazard completely. It takes experience to develop that kind of awareness. But I noticed subtle changes in Victoria's behavior as Rachel settled into the job and began contributing more ideas to our projects. She became more possessive of her tools, more critical of minor mistakes, and more vocal about her seniority and experience. "I've been doing this since before you were born," she'd say when Rachel suggested alternative approaches to problems, even when Rachel's ideas were actually quite good and could have saved us time or money. The tension between them grew gradually, like a crack in a foundation that starts small but spreads over time. Victoria would make comments about young people these days wanting everything handed to them, or about how real experience couldn't be learned from books or school. Rachel, to her credit, never responded defensively to these comments, but I could see the frustration building in her eyes as Victoria's remarks became more frequent and pointed. "Some people think they can waltz in here with a college degree and start telling everyone how to do their jobs," Victoria said one day, not directly addressing Rachel but clearly referring to her. "But construction is about hands-on experience, not theories you learned in a classroom." The old vacation system had been absolute chaos, with people requesting time off at the last minute and causing scheduling nightmares for everyone involved in our projects. Emergency requests would come in on Thursday for Friday off, leaving the rest of us scrambling to cover essential work and meet client deadlines that had been set weeks in advance. Projects would fall behind schedule, clients would complain about delays, and tensions would rise throughout the office as everyone tried to accommodate last-minute changes while maintaining quality standards. "This new approach seems organized, fair, and professional," our supervisor explained during the December staff meeting, standing in front of a whiteboard where he'd outlined the new policy in detail. "Everyone gets equal opportunity to request their preferred dates. No more last-minute surprises, no more favoritism based on who's friends with whom. Just a simple calendar system that treats everyone the same, regardless of seniority or personal relationships." The policy seemed logical on paper, and I remember thinking it was one of the smartest management decisions I'd seen since joining the company. Everyone would know exactly when the calendar went up, everyone would have the same opportunity to request their preferred dates, and conflicts would be resolved through a clear first-come first-served system. No more political maneuvering, no more hurt feelings, no more accusations of unfairness based on perceived favoritism. But fairness, I was about to learn, depends entirely on who gets to the calendar first and how willing they are to exploit the system for personal advantage. On January 2nd, the vacation calendar went up in the break room at exactly 8 in the morning, just as management had promised during their December announcement. I planned to fill in my requests during my lunch break, figuring I'd have plenty of options since it was still the beginning of the year and most people probably hadn't even thought about their vacation plans yet. I had a few specific dates in mind: my college roommate's wedding in June, a family reunion over Labor Day weekend that my entire extended family had been planning for months, and maybe a long weekend in October for some hunting with my dad, who'd been asking me to join him for years. When I walked into the break room at 12:15, expecting to see a mostly empty calendar with lots of available dates to choose from, I found Rachel staring at the calendar with her mouth hanging open and her hands shaking. She was holding a pen, but it was frozen in midair like she'd been paralyzed by what she was seeing on the board in front of her. "What's wrong?" I asked, approaching the board with my own pen ready and a smile on my face, still expecting to find plenty of good options available. She pointed at the calendar without saying a single word, and when I looked at what she was pointing to, I felt my stomach drop to the floor. Every strategic date was already claimed: Memorial Day weekend, the Friday after Thanksgiving, the Monday after Easter. Every Friday and Monday that connected to a federal holiday was marked with the same neat, precise handwriting: Victoria Sterling. Wait, Sterling. I'd never made the connection before, but seeing her last name written on the calendar made everything click into place like a puzzle piece falling into position. The family business, The special treatment she seemed to receive from management, the confidence she always showed when discussing company policies as if she had inside knowledge. "She's related to the boss," Rachel whispered, her voice barely audible and filled with a mixture of shock and betrayal. "She's his sister." I studied the calendar more carefully, my stomach dropping with each marked date I discovered. Victoria hadn't just taken the obvious holiday weekends that everyone would naturally want for family gatherings and celebrations. She'd claimed random Fridays throughout the summer, strategic Mondays during hunting season, the entire week between Christmas and New Year's, and even some Thursdays that preceded 3-day weekends. She'd used her 16 years of seniority to accumulate 47 vacation days, and she'd allocated them with surgical precision to block out every single desirable date on the calendar. "This can't be legal," I said, counting the marked days again and again, hoping I'd miscounted or misread Victoria's handwriting. "She's taken almost every good day of the entire year." Rachel's eyes were filling with tears, and she was gripping her coffee cup so tightly her knuckles were white. "I just wanted Memorial Day weekend. That's when my husband's family has their annual reunion in the mountains. We haven't been able to go for 4 years because of scheduling conflicts at his old job. I promised my kids we'd finally make it this year. They've been asking about their cousins for months, and I've been telling them we'd definitely be there this time." I felt a knot forming in my stomach as I realized the full scope of what had happened. The policy said first come first served, and Victoria had technically followed every rule to the letter. But watching Rachel's devastation made me understand that following rules and acting fairly aren't always the same thing. "Maybe you should talk to management," I suggested, though even as I said it, I knew it was pointless. "Explain your situation to them. Tell them about the family reunion and how important it is to your kids." Rachel shook her head, wiping away a tear with the back of her hand. "What am I going to say? That I'm upset because I didn't get to the calendar fast enough?" Victoria didn't break any rules. She just used the system to her advantage. The policy is first come first served, and she came first. But surely they didn't intend for one person to take all the good days, I argued, though I was beginning to realize how naive that sounded. "Didn't they?" Rachel asked, her voice getting stronger as anger began to replace disappointment. "Look at the calendar, David. The policy allows it. Victoria has more vacation days than anyone else because she's been here longer. She got to the calendar first because she probably knew exactly when it would go up. She's the boss's sister, for crying out loud. The system is working exactly as designed, just not the way we hoped it would." Over the following weeks, I watched Rachel's enthusiasm slowly drain away like water from a cracked bucket. She joined the company with such high hopes, talking about learning new skills and building a career in construction that would provide stability for her family. She'd even started taking evening classes in project management at the local community college, planning to advance within the company and eventually move into a supervisory role. But the vacation situation became a constant source of frustration that poisoned everything else about the job. She'd mentioned family events she couldn't attend, weekend trips she couldn't take, and special occasions she'd have to miss because Victoria had claimed every strategic day. The disappointment affected her work performance, her mood, and her relationships with other employees. "It's not just about the days off," Rachel confided in me one afternoon as we were reviewing blueprints for a new office building that would take 6 months to complete. "It's about feeling like my time doesn't matter. Like because I'm new, I don't deserve to spend holidays with my family. It's about feeling like there's a class system here where some people matter more than others." I tried to be supportive, offering to swap some of my less desirable vacation days with hers, but it didn't really help the situation. My available days were random Tuesdays in March and Wednesdays in November. Not exactly prime family time or dates that would work for special events and reunions. Honestly, I was dealing with my own growing frustration with the vacation monopoly. I'd planned to take a long weekend for my college roommate's wedding in Chicago, but Victoria had claimed that Friday. I'd hoped to extend my 4th of July weekend to visit my elderly parents in Florida, but she'd taken that Monday too. My father had been asking me to visit more often since my mother passed away 2 years ago, and these long weekends were my best opportunity to spend quality time with him. "Dad, I'm sorry," I had to tell him over the phone, hearing the disappointment in his voice that he tried to hide. "I can't get the Monday off, so I'll only be able to visit for the weekend." "That's okay, son," he said, but I could hear the sadness behind his words. "I understand you have responsibilities at work. Maybe next time." Every time I looked at the calendar, I saw Victoria's handwriting blocking out another opportunity for the rest of us to spend meaningful time with our families. It felt deliberate, calculated, almost vindictive. She wasn't just taking vacation days, she was hoarding them like a dragon hoarding gold, denying others the chance to create memories with their loved ones. The situation got worse when new employees started asking about vacation time during their interviews. Word had spread through the local construction community that Sterling Construction had a problematic vacation policy that favored senior employees at the expense of everyone else. Potential hires would specifically ask about holiday scheduling, and some actually declined job offers after learning about the system. "We're losing good candidates because of this," our supervisor mentioned during a staff meeting, though he seemed reluctant to address the underlying issue. "People don't want to work somewhere they can't take time off with their families." Victoria's response was predictable and showed no empathy for the concerns of her colleagues. "Maybe they should work somewhere else if they don't like our policies. This company rewards loyalty and seniority. That's how it should be. People need to pay their dues before they expect the same benefits as employees who've been here for years." But was it really about loyalty and seniority, or was it about power and control? I started to wonder if Victoria enjoyed knowing that her coworkers couldn't take the days they wanted. There was something almost smug about the way she'd reference her upcoming vacation plans during casual conversations, as if she was deliberately reminding us of what we couldn't have. "I'm so looking forward to my long weekend in May," she'd say, knowing full well that Rachel had wanted those exact same days for her anniversary. "There's nothing like a 3-day weekend to recharge your batteries and spend time with family." The breaking point came in April, when the tension in our department had reached a level that was affecting everyone's work performance and job satisfaction. Rachel's husband had been offered a promotion that would require them to relocate to North Carolina. It was a significant career advancement with better pay and benefits, but it meant Rachel would have to leave Sterling Construction after less than 2 years with the company. "I'm going to miss working with you," she told me during her last week, as we cleaned up after a particularly difficult project that had tested everyone's patience. "But honestly, I'm relieved. I can't spend another year watching someone else control my family time. It's not worth the stress and frustration." Rachel had been an excellent employee who brought valuable skills and fresh perspectives to our team. She was skilled, reliable, and well-liked by everyone except Victoria. Her departure was a real loss for the company, both professionally and personally, and it highlighted the toxic effect that one person's selfish behavior could have on an entire workplace. When Rachel submitted her resignation letter, she was diplomatic but clear about her reasons for leaving. She mentioned several factors: limited advancement opportunities, the commute distance, and the vacation policy. She was professional about it, but the message was crystal clear: the current system was pushing away good employees who had valuable contributions to make. "Victoria's been here longer," our supervisor said when he heard about Rachel's concerns, though he seemed uncomfortable defending a system that was clearly causing problems. "She's earned those vacation days fair and square. The policy is the same for everyone." "But is it really fair?" I asked, voicing what everyone else was thinking but afraid to say. "When one person can monopolize all the good days?" He shrugged, clearly not wanting to get involved in what he saw as employee complaints rather than a systematic problem. "First come first served is first come first served. If other people want better days, they need to get there earlier." But was it really that simple? Yes, Victoria had worked there longer and accumulated more vacation time through her seniority. But did that give her the right to monopolize every desirable date on the calendar? Was it fair for one person to claim all the strategic days while everyone else fought over the leftover scraps? I started researching how other companies handled vacation scheduling during my evening hours, spending time on construction industry forums and HR websites. Some used a rotating priority system, where employees took turns getting first choice each year. Others implemented blackout periods for high-demand dates, requiring approval from multiple managers. A few companies I found online had fairness quotas that prevented any single employee from claiming more than a certain percentage of popular dates. One company I read about had a particularly interesting approach that seemed designed to prevent exactly the kind of monopolization we were experiencing. They divided vacation days into categories: regular days, premium days, and holiday days. Employees could use their seniority to claim a certain number of premium and holiday days, but there were limits to prevent monopolization. Another company used a lottery system for high-demand dates, giving everyone an equal chance regardless of seniority. But Sterling Construction stuck with first come first served, and Victoria continued to dominate the calendar year after year like a general commanding her troops and denying resources to the enemy. The next January, I arrived at work 45 minutes early, determined to claim at least one good weekend before Victoria could monopolize everything again. I found her already at the calendar, systematically filling in dates with her precise handwriting, wearing the same confident smile she always had when she was asserting her dominance. "You're here early, David," she said without looking up from her work, as if my presence was an amusing but ultimately futile gesture. "So are you," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral and professional despite my growing frustration. She finished marking Labor Day weekend and turned to face me with that same smile that had begun to irritate me more each time I saw it. "David, I've been thinking about what happened with Rachel. I know you think I was unfair to her, but I've earned these vacation days. I've been here 16 years. I've missed family events, worked overtime without complaint, and sacrificed my personal time for this company. Don't I deserve to enjoy the benefits of my loyalty?" I understood her perspective on one level, but I also remembered Rachel's tears and the frustration of watching talented people leave because they felt undervalued and ignored by a system that seemed designed to benefit only the most senior employees. "Victoria," I said carefully, choosing my words like stepping stones across a river, "I respect your seniority and your dedication to this company. But when one person claims all the best dates, it affects everyone else's morale. Maybe there's a way to balance your seniority with other people's needs." She studied me for a long moment, her smile fading slightly as she realized I was challenging her authority. "The policy is crystal clear, David. First come, first served. If other people want better dates, they need to get here earlier or work harder to earn more vacation days." "But what about fairness?" I pressed, knowing I was probably damaging our working relationship but unable to stay silent. "What about team morale?" "Fairness is following the rules," she replied, her voice taking on a harder edge. "I've followed every rule. I've earned my seniority. I've accumulated my vacation days through years of loyal service. Why should I give that up to make other people feel better about their own choices?" That conversation stuck with me for months afterward, replaying in my mind as I watched the toxic effects of Victoria's vacation hoarding spread throughout our small company. Victoria wasn't technically wrong about the policy, but her approach felt selfish and short-sighted. She was prioritizing her own vacation time over the team's overall happiness and stability. I decided to document everything systematically, keeping detailed records that could support a case for policy changes. I kept track of which dates Victoria claimed, how many employees expressed frustration with the system, and how the vacation policy affected department morale overall. I wasn't trying to get Victoria in trouble necessarily, I was trying to gather evidence that our current system wasn't working for anyone except her. By September, I had enough information to present a solid case to management, complete with examples from other companies and data showing how the current policy was affecting employee retention and morale. I scheduled a meeting with our department head and prepared a professional presentation about vacation scheduling alternatives. "I've been thinking about our vacation policy," I began, spreading out printouts of different scheduling systems on his desk. "I think we might benefit from a more balanced approach that maintains seniority benefits while ensuring fair access for all employees." I explained the rotating priority system, showed examples of fairness quotas, and demonstrated how other companies prevented vacation monopolization while still rewarding loyalty and experience. I was careful to present it as a company improvement rather than a complaint about Victoria specifically. "This is interesting research," our department head said, reviewing my materials carefully. "Have we had actual complaints about the current system?" I mentioned Rachel's departure and the general frustration I'd observed among newer employees, but I avoided naming Victoria directly. I wanted to focus on solutions rather than blame, hoping to create positive change rather than conflict. "We've also had trouble recruiting new employees," I added, sharing examples of candidates who had asked specifically about vacation scheduling and some who had declined offers after learning about our system. "Several potential hires have mentioned the vacation policy as a concern." "That's concerning," he admitted, seeming genuinely surprised by the scope of the problem. "We can't afford to lose good people over vacation policies. Let me discuss this with the other managers," he said after reviewing all my materials. "We'll consider making some adjustments for next year." I left the meeting feeling hopeful but uncertain, knowing that change happens slowly in small companies, especially when it involves policies that affect senior employees with family connections to management. The real surprise came in November, when everything changed in ways none of us could have predicted. Victoria was driving to a job site on Interstate 75 during the afternoon rush hour when a drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into her truck at over 60 miles per hour. The impact was devastating. Her truck rolled twice before coming to rest in a ditch, and she was rushed to the hospital with a broken collarbone, 3 cracked ribs, and a severe concussion that left her confused and disoriented. We were all shocked by the news, regardless of our feelings about her vacation policies. Despite my frustration with her vacation monopolization, Victoria was still a colleague and a human being who didn't deserve to suffer such trauma. Nobody deserves to go through something like that, and the accident put everything else into perspective. I visited her in the hospital 2 days after the accident, bringing flowers and a card signed by everyone in the department. She looked pale and exhausted, with her arm in a sling and bandages covering several cuts on her face. The confident, controlling woman I knew had been replaced by someone who looked fragile and vulnerable. "David," she said weakly, "thank you for coming. I wasn't sure anyone would visit." "Of course we'd visit," I said, setting the flowers on her bedside table next to get well cards from other employees. "How are you feeling?" "Terrible," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "The doctors say I'll be out of work for at least 6 weeks, maybe 8. The concussion is the worst part. I can't concentrate on anything for more than a few minutes, and I keep forgetting things." We talked for a few minutes about her injuries, her recovery timeline, and how the department was managing without her expertise and leadership. I assured her that we were handling all her current projects and that she shouldn't worry about work while she recovered. Then she asked me something that made my blood run cold and revealed just how deeply her obsession with vacation control had affected her priorities. "David, I need to ask you something important. Will my time off for this accident affect my vacation days for next year?" I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. She just survived a traumatic car accident, was lying in a hospital bed with multiple injuries and a brain injury that was affecting her cognitive function, and her primary concern was whether her medical leave would impact her ability to monopolize the vacation calendar. "I'm sure it won't," I said, though I honestly had no idea about the company's policy regarding medical leave and vacation time. "Medical leave is completely separate from vacation time." "Good," she said, visibly relaxing against her pillows. "I was worried they might count this against my vacation balance. I've already been planning my requests for next year, and I can't afford to lose any of my accumulated days." "Victoria," I said gently, "maybe you should focus on getting better first. The vacation calendar isn't going anywhere. You don't understand," she said, her voice getting stronger and more animated than it had been since I arrived. "If I don't get to the calendar first, someone else will take the good days. I can't let that happen. I've worked hard to build up my vacation time to let newer employees take the dates I deserve." I left the hospital feeling disturbed and confused by what I'd witnessed. Victoria's reaction revealed something deeply troubling about her relationship with vacation time and control. It wasn't just about taking time off, it was about maintaining her dominance over the calendar regardless of how it affected others, even when she was facing serious health challenges. 2 weeks later, while Victoria was still recovering and unable to participate in company decisions, management announced significant changes to the vacation policy. The new system would allow employees to request holiday dates only 2 months in advance rather than a full year. If multiple people requested the same date, priority would go to whoever hadn't taken that specific date the previous year. If the conflict persisted after applying that rule, seniority would be the tiebreaker. The changes were implemented immediately, and the results were dramatic when the new calendar went up in January. Dates were distributed much more evenly among employees. Victoria still got some of her preferred days due to her seniority, but she couldn't monopolize everything like before. Newer employees finally had a chance to plan meaningful time off with their families. Victoria returned to work in February, still wearing a wrist brace and moving carefully due to lingering effects from her injuries. She seemed different, quieter, less confident, almost deflated. During our first department meeting after her return, she mentioned the vacation policy changes with obvious displeasure. "I think the new system is unnecessarily complicated," she said, her voice lacking its usual authority and confidence. "The old way was simpler and more fair to employees who had earned their benefits, but fairer for everyone." I asked, genuinely curious about her perspective after everything that had happened. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded reluctantly. "Maybe. I suppose change is inevitable, even when it doesn't benefit everyone equally." The new policy worked exactly as intended. No one tried to monopolize the holidays anymore. Employees were happier, retention improved dramatically, and the overall workplace atmosphere became more positive and collaborative. We started attracting better job candidates, and our projects ran more smoothly with improved team morale and cooperation. But Victoria's question in the hospital still haunts me today. Even after surviving a serious accident that could have killed her, her first concern was protecting her vacation time advantage. It made me realize that some people become so focused on maintaining control that they lose sight of what really matters: relationships, fairness, and basic human decency. Today, 3 years later, Victoria is still with the company. She's a good employee who does quality work, but she's never quite regained her former confidence or authority. The vacation policy changes leveled the playing field, and she's had to learn to share the calendar like everyone else. Sometimes I wonder if her accident was a wake-up call that helped her gain perspective, or if she still resents the policy changes and wishes she could return to the old system. But I learned something important from the whole experience. Fairness isn't just about following rules, it's about considering how your actions affect others and being willing to share opportunities, even when you have the power to take them all for yourself. The truth is, Victoria taught me as much about leadership as she did about vacation scheduling. Real leaders don't hoard opportunities, they create them for others. They don't use their seniority as a weapon, they use it as a tool to build stronger teams. And they understand that true success comes from lifting others up, not from keeping them down. That's a lesson worth more than any vacation day, and it's something I carry with me in every leadership decision I make today.